the biggest turning point for the band was when we played a show at the Social in London, and an NME journalist was down at the gig and gave us just a very small but very glowing review of the show. Mentioned Neil Young and Tim Buckley, and I think that piqued the interest of some record labels, and we recorded a demo and sent out the demo, and everything kind of snowballed from there. And another sort of pinnacle of our career was getting to play Glastonbury Festival. My personal experiences very much shaped my songwriting during those early years. I think there's something about being in your late teens and early 20s where you're very emotional. It's for a lot of people, it's the first time you've had a serious girlfriend or experienced heartbreak, and I feel like the first time those things happen, it's much more intense, and I guess you're a little bit more self-centered as well. Like you become less self-obsessed when you start a family and get a bit older, and I think that kind of that vulnerability kind of got into the lyrics as well. I'm not sure why we have such a lasting appeal. I guess it's just because we made an album all those years ago in Love Is Here that was very organic and honest, and that's what really resonated with people. And because it's a band as well, in a simple way, like there's keyboards, guitars, drums, and my heroes like Van Morrison and James Taylor, Jackson Browne, they've all made amazing albums over the years, but stayed true to the core and the emotion in their songs, and I think that's what we've always tried to do as well. What made the Love Is Here album so impactful, it's the album that most bands get the longest to work on and to craft, and like often the songs that you record for your first album have been years in the making because you've not had the opportunity to make an album before. So all that energy and just the excitement of finally being recognized and being signed and being in a studio, I think that sort of spills into the record and adds to the sort of magic. So I think that's what's and also again, like the vulnerability of the lyrics is something that everyone can relate to, whereas the more I guess some of the bands whose songs are a bit more bombastic, it's not as easy to relate to that kind of thing. The title of the album, Where the Wild Things Grow, was partly inspired by the children's book Where the Wild Things Are, which was one that I certainly read a lot growing up and related to. That idea of kind of getting in a mood and escaping to this magical land, but also the experience of being in lockdown, the streets being so quiet that you could hear nature again, and everything felt quite strange and isolated, and you'd hear a lot of noises and not necessarily know what it was. It's quite a sort of spooky time, and that really inspired that track and that album. Well, we went with the same producer as the previous album, All This Life, because he did such a great job on that. It's great working with Rick from Embrace because he's a fellow musician, so he kind of approaches the recording and the sensibilities like a musician, not a sound technician. I guess it differs in the way that a lot of the songs and a lot of the ideas were written in isolation. So I came to the band with a lot of the ideas because we didn't get the chance to develop so much the songs and the ideas until quite late in the process. But then a couple of songs really transformed from, like Into the Wild started off as a very gentle acoustic song and became this huge rock song. So I guess the way it differs from the previous albums is it's very much an album of extremes. So tender songs are extremely tender and quiet, and the rockier songs are probably the heaviest that we've done. I think for most of the songs I had at least an idea of a verse or a chorus. As 2 or 3, like After the Rain, Last Shot, Where the Wild Things Grow, I had the kind of the bulk of the song written, went into the band and presented the song, and then everyone it's just an exchange of ideas then, like what should the tempo be, and the keyboard player will come up with these amazing lines, and the bass player, Stel, he would kind of really comes into his own towards the end of the process because he's got a very clear sort of ear to how he wants it to sound sonically, whereas I'm much more interested in the song craft and the structure, and I think he's really good at assisting the producer in making sure the sound is right. It's kind of a double-sided coin in a way, where it sort of conveys a kind of uneasiness in songs like Hanging in the Balance and Where the Wild Things Grow, that they're quite sort of isolated and slightly claustrophobic. But then you've got more hopeful songs like After the Rain and Better Times, and I think it's kind of indicative of the state of the world, really. There's a lot to despair about, but also a lot of great people who are trying to change things, and the young people coming up as well seem to be very sort of into activism and humanitarian causes and things. It's quite encouraging to see. The reaction has been really good. It's quite difficult because we've not had the opportunity to play the whole album so much, because people come to shows expecting to hear a lot of songs that they know, but the songs from the new album that we've put in the set have gone down really well. The album sort of reflects the band's journey as well, and the position that we're in to, like nothing is necessarily guaranteed, or continued success is something that we don't take for granted. So all you can really do is keep working hard and hoping that it continues, and I guess that's reflected in the music as well. I think it's quite difficult. I think there's obviously a tendency or an instinct to kind of try and push the boundaries as much as you can and make as interesting music as you can. But I think a lot of times the song that comes out really finds its own way, rather than trying to force either a traditional kind of sound to it, or trying to make it kind of willfully experimental. I think the songs, you've got to be true to the song that's written and give it the best possible wallpaper, so to speak. I think the chemistry between the band is really important. The fact that we're all really good musicians, and the rest of the band are great musicians who've studied their instruments for years and always had a passion and an ambition to kind of to be in a band and to do what we're doing. And they've always maintained that discipline. I think that's been really important. And the fact that we're all friends as well, like we enjoy drinking together and taking the mickey out of each other, it really helps. Also, I think the fact that there's no real hierarchy either. I think it's hard for a band to function. One person calls all the shots. I think there's always times where anyone in the band can speak up and say, I don't want to do this, or maybe we should try a song like this, or even like, oh, I'm not sure we should be staying in that hotel, or whatever it is. We all kind of listen to each other. So we all went to college together, and at the end of term in college there's a big concert where everyone goes to this, I think it was at a big church or wherever, and there's loads of different performances, and then a big finale. This finale was a Sting song, from what I can remember, Let Your Soul Be Your Pilot. It was originally supposed to be one of the sort of senior students at the college, but he did get sick just a few days before the performance, so they approached me about singing this big finale song. From what I can remember, I think a couple of the members of the band were in the backing band, so I guess that was one of the earliest Starsailor performances. And yeah, once we formed a band, we obviously like looked up to bands like the Beatles and Free and all these great bands, so we felt like we wanted the traditional lineup of like guitarist, singer, bass player and drums, but something wasn't clicking with the guitarist that we had, and I'd always been into playing acoustic guitar, listening to Neil Young and learning Neil Young songs and James Taylor, so I did already have a degree of knowledge and musicianship on the acoustic. So we decided, just casually really, like our friend Barry, who plays the keyboards, we're having a drink with him, and he said, oh, I'll come down and bring my keyboards and we can have a jam. So he came down, and once we moved on from the electric guitar sound and more towards the piano sound and acoustic guitar, it was, believe it or not, it was something that wasn't really done very much around that time. So I think that it just gave us a much fresher and more original sound. And as often happens whenever you're doing something and you think you're the only band or the only person doing it, there's always something in the air and there's someone else somewhere else doing a very similar thing. So it ended up there was bands like us and Elbow and Turin Breaks who all became successful with this sound around the same time, and I think it was a great time for music. I'm not sure. I think Revolver is probably the best album objectively. My favourite Beatles album is Rubber Soul, because I feel like that was the one where they really moved on from being lovable mop tops with these sort of skiffle songs and very kind of nodding their heads and the sort of typical Beatles kind of thing, to something completely out of this world. And songs like In My Life and Drive My Car, just incredible tunes. She Just Wept is one that always comes up, like people always ask us to play it, and it's such a kind of sad and slow song that it doesn't often get played because it really brings down the set when we play it, and most of the audience are in the mood for something slightly more upbeat, but there's definitely like a significant minority, I would say, who just love that song for some reason. And I guess again it's the honesty of it and the tenderness people can relate to, and there are people out there who want to come to a concert for a good cry as well. The song Force the Floor happened because we were starting work on our second album, and we really needed something upbeat, and we wanted to prove that we could write a happy song. The first thing that came about was the riff. I was just playing the riff over and over and trying to find a melody. In the studio, when we transposed the riff to go on the piano rather than the guitar, that's when the song really came to life. A little bit down the line, kind of as we were doing the release, we got a call or email from Thin White Duke, Stuart Price. He really wanted to do a remix of the song, so we got the remix done, and we can't have imagined how well that went. I think we listened to it and thought it was a great remix, but you can never imagine that anything is gonna be in the charts around the world. It was an amazing time. We're a bit older, I think, so we have to look after ourselves a bit better. There's definitely more drinking going on in those days. We still like to have a drink, but more sensibly. The experience shines through, I think. My voice is quite deeper than it was, and the way we approach the songs, I think, is subtly different. Like, we haven't radically changed the arrangements or the songs. It's just the experience and the musicianship that we've picked up along the way is really comes through in the performance. I guess, like I was saying before, I think after we recorded the first album, there was obviously a lot of pressure on the second album, and we could have either made Love Is Here 2 and pleased the audience completely that had sort of fallen in love with that record, but we decided to make a slightly different album and get the string sections in, and like I say, like write a few more joyful kind of songs. So I think that was definitely a time where we had to recording Silence Is Easy after the success of Love Is Here sparked an idea to reinvent ourselves, because we either were going to make Love Is Here 2 or prove that we could make something a bit more different and joyful.